King of the Railway. It was a busy day at Brandon Docks. Whilst Cranky hoisted heavy cargo from the waiting ships, Thomas and Percy shunted trucks, but the two engines were having too much fun and weren't paying attention. One truck bashed into Percy's buffer and tipped over. A crate fell out and split open, revealing an amazing sight. "Thomas, look," peeped Percy. "There's a metal man, a robot." "Silly tank engine," grumbled Cranky. "That's not a robot. It's a suit of armor, like a knight used to wear." Just then Sir Topham had arrived. "Cranky's right," said Sir Topham had. "Thomas and Percy, you must be careful with your work. This armor was very old and valuable. Long ago, before there were any railways, the island of Sodor was ruled by kings, and the greatest king of Sodor was the beloved King Godred. He protected the island from invaders with the help of his gallant knights. He wore a golden crown." "The ruins of King Godred's castle can still be found at Ulster on the Earl of Sodor's estate," Sir Topham had continued, "and the king's golden crown was kept on display there for many years until it was stolen. The thieves were caught, but the crown was never seen again. Which reminds me, we have a special visitor coming to Sodor. You all must get washed and look your best for his arrival." The next day, there was excitement around the island. The engines were given a good wash and a polishing. "I heard Spencer was coming from the mainland," peeped Emily. "I hope we're not all having a wash just for Spencer," puffed James. "No," said Sir Topham had. "Spencer is bringing our visitor, my old friend Robert Normanby. The Earl of Sodor is coming home today after travelling the world for many years." Later, Thomas and the other engines arrived at Knapford Station. They all looked their best and gleamed in the sun. The station was decorated and colourful with banners and balloons. Spencer rolled up, shining and proud. A brass band played as the Earl stepped out of his coach. "What a marvellous greeting!" the Earl exclaimed. Sir Tom had cleared his throat and spoke. "We have gathered here to celebrate a celebration," the Earl interrupted. "How marvellous! Carry on. I promised I'd be at my estate soon. Enjoy your party." With that, he disappeared into his coach, and Spencer puffed away. The next morning, Thomas delivered a crate to the Earl's estate. There he saw the Earl looking at building plans for his big project. He also met Millie, the Earl's narrow gauge engine. "I run the estate railway for the Earl," Millie peeped happily. The Earl eagerly opened the crate and removed the armor Thomas had seen at the docks. The Earl was pleased, but then he sighed. "If only I had King Godred's golden crown, then my plan would be complete." The armor was loaded onto Millie's trucks. Before Thomas could ask about the missing crown or the Earl's mysterious plan, Millie and the Earl chugged away. Over the next few days, Thomas helped to take more crates and supplies to the Earl's estate. There were so many deliveries of tools, stones, wood, and rails that James and Percy had to help. Thomas's friend Jack the Digger was also working at the estate. "I'm helping the Earl with his building project," puffed Jack. "He's restoring Ulster Castle, so that's his plan," whistled Thomas. Thomas, Percy, and James spent the day happily shunting containers until Thomas came upon a flapper with a very large crate on it. The Earl said it was a special cargo for the steamworks. Percy peeped that he wanted to holler, but James thought an important package should be delivered by a fine engine like him. "If you are all so curious," the Earl said, "maybe you should all take it." The engines were coupled to each other, then they pulled the mysterious crate together. "Hello, my friends," Victor said when they arrived at the steamworks. "What is this thing in a crate that takes so many engines to deliver?" A gigantic crane lifted the crate and revealed an old engine named Stephen. His wood was worn and he had rust holes in his boiler. He hadn't turned his wheels in years. "Surprise!" the old engine peeped. "Stephen will be helping with my project," the Earl explained. Victor said he'd have Stephen fixed up in no time. As Victor and Stephen rolled away, Thomas asked the Earl what Stephen would be doing. "I have a special job for him, but it's best not to say anything." "Okay, sir," peeped Thomas. "I won't say anything, I promise." News of the mysterious old engine spread quickly. The next morning, many of the engines rolled down to the steamworks to see Stephen. He was suspended high in the air, hanging from a gantry crane. His wheels had been removed. "What are you doing up there?" asked Henry. "They're turning me into an aeroplane," Stephen joked. "Stephen is one of the first steam engines ever built," said Victor. "I've been around a long time," Stephen said. "And I wasn't always this rusty. Back when trains were pulled by horses," Stephen continued. "I worked in the mines and on the docks, and I was lightning fast. They called me the Rocket. But you new engines are so fast and strong, I'm not needed anymore." Percy asked Stephen if he had seen knights in shining armor. Stephen laughed. "I'm not that old, and I never saw dinosaurs either." The other engines laughed, and Stephen told Percy not to feel bad. Asking questions is always a good thing to learn new things. Victor worked quickly. Soon Stephen's funnel was straightened and his boiler was fixed. With a fresh coat of paint, he was as good as new. "You look really useful again," peeped Thomas, James, and Percy tooted their horns. Just then Sir Tom had arrived. "James, Thomas, and Percy, the Earl of Sodor asked me if you can help with a special job." As Thomas rolled away to work, he noticed that Stephen looked sad. Suddenly an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. He thought it might be hard for Stephen to see the other engines be really useful. Thomas told Stephen that the Earl had a special job to do. Thomas knew he wasn't supposed to tell, but he wanted to cheer up his new friend. Stephen was very excited and wondered what his new job could be. Thomas, James, and Percy steamed up to the Earl's estate. It looked very different. Rocks and dirt had been removed, and the officer castle was now towering over the land. "The Earl has done so much work," peeped Thomas. "What about me?" asked Jack as he dumped a load of dirt and rocks into a troublesome truck. "I've done a lot of work too." James's face fell. "I hope the Earl doesn't want us to cart away this dirt. That would be a splendid job." The Earl led the engines inside the castle walls, where they were amazed to see a giant platform on rails. The Earl called it the Traveller. "The men will work on top of the Traveller and replace the roof beams," the Earl explained, "and you three will work carefully to keep the platform stable." "We'll do our best," peeped Thomas. Thomas, Percy, and James had never done a job like this. The platform was very tall and a little scary. The three engines carefully pushed and pulled it together. James dinged ahead, then Percy nudged the Traveller a little too hard. It wobbled. "Easy, Percy," puffed James, "and pay attention." "You both have to pay attention," peeped Thomas as he lurched forward, not realizing that James and Percy were moving with him. The Traveller shook, then the giant roof beam thundered to the ground. Dust covered everyone. "Is everyone all right?" asked the Earl. "I'm not," James shouted. "My paintwork is covered in dust." They all laughed. Thomas, James, and Percy promised to be more careful, and Jack was happy to carry away the fallen rocks. Meanwhile, Stephen was eager to learn what his special job would be. Victor didn't know, so Stephen rolled down to Brandon Docks. It was very noisy there. "Out of the way, little Steamy," said Diesel. "We have work to do." "There's no work here for an old engine like you," Cranky said. Stephen puffed sadly away from the docks. Stephen wound his way up to the Blue Mountain Quarry. It was bigger and busier than any quarry he'd ever worked in before. "I'm looking for my new job," said Stephen to a narrow gauge engine named Luke. "We can always use help," Luke peeped. But each truck Stephen tried to pull was just too heavy. He steamed in straight, but nothing would move. Scullery frowned. "I don't think there's a job for you here, Stephen." "When I worked at a mine, the trucks weren't this heavy," said Stephen. "Are there any mines around here?" Scullery thought for a moment. "There is an old mine near the castle ruins, but I don't think anyone works there now." "I'm on a quest, like the knights in olden times," thought Stephen as he puffed away in search for the mine. Stephen puffed to a slope below the castle grounds and rolled through some overgrown grass. He found the entrance to the mine, but it was boarded up. No one had worked there in years. "The other engines are right," he said. "I'm slow, old, and weak. There is no job on this island for me." Meanwhile, at the top of the same slope, Thomas prepared to haul away dirt in the troublesome trucks. Suddenly, the trucks slipped loose and rolled down the hill. Thomas didn't know it, but they were headed right headed right towards Stephen. Stephen had no choice but to push through the abandoned mine. His funnel struck the roof and rocks crashed down beneath him, sealing up the entrance. Thomas retrieved the trucks, not knowing that Stephen was trapped in the mine. Officer Castle's grand reopening was just a day away, and the island of Sodor was buzzing with excitement. Visitors hurried from the mainland to be part of the festivities. 2 special agents named Connor and Caitlin were brought over to help with carry the extra passengers. With all the activity, only Thomas noticed that Stephen was missing. Thomas went to the steamworks to ask about Stephen, and Victor told him that Stephen had left the day before to find his new job. But he didn't know what his new job was, Thomas peeped. He felt responsible. If he hadn't mentioned the job, Stephen wouldn't be missing. Thomas teamed to the chugs and chugged to the quarry yard. He rolled down to the docks and ended up the quiet. There was no sign of Stephen. While Thomas raced around the island, Stephen was still in the mines, searching for a way out. He crept around dark bends and through empty tunnels, with the trucks that just led him in circles. The only thing he found was an old wooden crate. Stephen's light was flickering, and his body was almost dry. He couldn't turn his wheels another inch. Thomas returned to the sheds and asked the other engines to help. "Let's get those boilers bubbling and find our friend," he puffed. So Tom Hat protested. "I have a railway to run." Just then the Earl drew up in the paddock. "I need Stephen for the opening of Officer Castle tomorrow." So Tom Hat agreed to let Thomas and Percy search for Stephen, and they quickly chugged off. Thomas and Percy searched every yard, station, and tunnel. Thomas was just about to give up when Percy saw an overgrown trunk at the bottom of a hill near Officer Castle. "Maybe we should check down there." "He's not there," Thomas replied. "That's the track to the old mine. We went down there when the troublesome trucks ran away." But Thomas looked anyway. He saw something familiar lying on the ground. It was Stephen's funnel. As quickly as his pistons could pump, Thomas chuffed up to the castle to get Jack the digger. When they returned, Jack started hauling rocks away from the mine entrance. As soon as it was clear, Thomas turned on his lamp and raced into the dark mine. The old track creaked under his weight. "Wait, Stephen! Stephen!" he peeped. Stephen heard Thomas coming his way. He wanted to call out, but he was too weak. He had no steam. He couldn't move or even whistle. Finally, Thomas turned a corner, and the beam from his lamp revealed a welcome sight. "Stephen!" Thomas peeped. "I've come to get you out of here." "Really?" Stephen said, trying to sound cheerful. "I was thinking of taking up mining again." Thomas was coupled up to Stephen and carefully pushing him out of the dark mine. Percy and Jack were relieved to see Stephen was safe. Even Earl was there. "Oh, sir," said Stephen, "I found something in the mine that might be of interest to you. There's a big wooden chest." "Wonderful," said the Earl. "But first we must get you ready for tomorrow. You are a very important engine with a special job to do." The Earl went into the mine to find the crate, and Stephen was quickly shunted to the steamworks for repairs. The next day, an exciting crowd gathered around Officer Castle. Percy was thrilled to see that the metal man was also there and moving. He climbed up to the podium and lifted its mask. It was the Earl. "Ladies and gentlemen, engines and coaches, welcome to Officer Castle. There is still work to do, but we'll soon restore King Godric's Castle to its former glory. Now, let me introduce my special engine, Stephen. He and Millie will be more than happy to show you the grounds." Stephen rolled into view. His new funnel glittered like gold. It reminded Thomas of something, but what? "Most importantly," the Earl said, "Stephen, I found something that I thought was lost forever." The Earl opened the old chest that Stephen had found in the mine. Inside was a golden crown. "King Godric's long-lost crown," he announced. The crowd gasped. It will be returned to the castle and kept on display for all to see. Then Thomas realized that Stephen's funnel looked like a crown. He blew his whistle. All the other engines joined in and cheered for Stephen. He wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but he was really useful, and today he was a king. The end.